She was 8 weeks pregnant, broke, and staring at a news alert that made her blood run cold. Her ex-husband, the man who'd called her nothing, was about to become a billionaire. Off her work, off her code, off 7 years of her genius that he'd stolen and claimed as his own vision. But here's what Marcus Thorne didn't know. The woman he erased from history, she was about to walk onto a stage in front of 500 people and 50,000 live stream viewers. With evidence he thought he'd destroyed, with allies he never saw coming, and with absolutely nothing left to lose. The FBI had already raided her apartment. His lawyers were threatening prison. He was fighting for custody of the baby he didn't even know existed. And in 72 hours, one of them would be completely destroyed. The only question was, who? This is the story of how a pregnant software engineer with $800 to her name took down a $2.3 billion fraud. And trust me, you won't believe how she did it. So hit that like button. If you love a good revenge story, drop a comment telling me what you would do in her situation, and subscribe because this channel is all about women who refuse to stay silent. Now let's get into how Claire Morgan went from nothing to everything. The clock on Claire Morgan's desk read 2:47 in the morning when her world finally collapsed. She sat hunched over her keyboard in the cramped studio apartment in Oakland, fingers flying across the keys, stopping only when another wave of nausea forced her to run to the bathroom. The morning sickness didn't care that it was technically still night. The baby growing inside her operated on its own schedule, just like everything else in her life that she couldn't control anymore. When Claire stumbled back to her desk, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand, her phone screen was glowing with a news alert. Her stomach dropped for reasons that had nothing to do with pregnancy. Thorne Industries announces $2.3 billion IPO. CEO Marcus Thorne calls Chimera AI his life's work. Claire's hands trembled as she clicked the article. There was Marcus, devastatingly handsome as always in his tailored suit, standing in front of a massive screen displaying technical diagrams. Her technical diagrams. The napkin sketches from their first date 6 years ago, when she'd been a naive 27-year-old PhD student and he'd been a charming venture capitalist who promised to change the world with Vine. The article quoted him extensively. Chimera represents my vision for the future of predictive analytics. I've dedicated the last 7 years to perfecting this technology. It's my life's work. Your life's work, Claire whispered to the empty apartment. Her voice cracked. He called it his life's work. She looked at the bathroom trash can visible from her desk chair. The positive pregnancy test she'd taken 4 hours ago sat on top of crumpled tissues. 8 weeks pregnant, which meant conception had happened in early March, when Marcus had invited her to dinner to talk things through one last time before the divorce was finalized. One glass of wine had turned into a bottle. One conversation had turned into old patterns, familiar touches, the bitter comfort of sleeping with someone who used to be your whole world. The divorce had been finalized 6 weeks ago. Marcus had gotten the company, the patents, the glory. Claire had gotten $75,000, a condo she couldn't afford to keep, and an ironclad non-disclosure agreement that prevented her from telling anyone the truth about who had really built Chimera. And now she was carrying his child. I built a future, Claire said to the empty room, touching her still flat stomach. He stole it. He called me nothing. And now I'm carrying his baby. She closed her eyes, trying to remember when everything had started to go wrong. 8 weeks earlier, the conference room at Finch & Associates smelled like expensive leather and old money. Mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown San Francisco. Harrison Finch, Marcus's attorney, sat at the head of the table with a stack of documents organized into neat piles. Marcus sat to his right, refusing to make eye contact with Claire. Claire felt small in her chair, exhausted. She'd been fighting this divorce for 4 months, watching her meager savings evaporate on legal fees while Marcus's team buried her in paperwork. Mrs. Thorne, Finch began, his voice smooth and practiced. My client is offering a very generous settlement, $75,000, your personal vehicle, and the condo you currently reside in. Claire's throat was dry. What about Chimera? I wrote every line of code. My name should be on the patent. Marcus sighed like he was talking to a difficult child, still wouldn't look at her. Claire, we've been over this. You wrote algorithms. I built the company. There's a difference between being a coder and being a founder. I was your co-founder. Claire's voice rose despite her intention to stay calm. I dropped out of MIT for this. For us. Finch slid a document across the polished table. According to the marital property agreement you signed in 2019, all intellectual property created during the marriage belongs to Thorne Industries. You were an employee, Mrs. Thorne. A valued one, certainly, but an employee. That's not... Claire turned to Marcus, desperate. Marcus, tell him. Tell him I was your partner. Marcus finally met her eyes. They were cold, distant, nothing like the warm brown eyes that had convinced her to abandon her PhD, her research, her entire career trajectory. You were my wife, Claire. That doesn't make you a tech visionary. You're brilliant at execution, I'll give you that. But vision, leadership, that's not your strength. The words hit like physical blows. Claire felt something break inside her chest. Finch continued unmoved. Now this is the non-disclosure agreement. He slid a 40-page document toward her. Standard non-disclosure, non-compete, non-disparagement. You cannot work in data architecture, predictive analytics, or AI development for 10 years. You cannot discuss the marriage, the company, or Mr. Thorne publicly in any capacity. 10 years? Claire stared at the document. That's my entire field. How am I supposed to make a living? You're a talented programmer, Mrs. Thorne. I'm sure you'll find work in web development, perhaps, technical support, user interface design. I have a PhD and you have half a PhD, Claire. Marcus's voice was quiet but sharp. You never finished. I'm sorry, but let's be accurate here. The room felt like it was shrinking. Claire looked at the papers, at Marcus, at her own hands shaking in her lap. And if I don't sign? Finch's expression didn't change. Then we proceed to trial. And in trial, we'll be forced to present evidence of your instability during the marriage. Claire's head snapped up. What instability? I was never... Your therapy sessions with Dr. Rebecca Patterson, your anxiety medication, the emails where you expressed feeling overwhelmed and inadequate. We'll present testimony that your code was erratic, that Mr. Thorne had to frequently correct your mistakes. That's not true, Claire turned to Marcus. Marcus, tell him that's not what happened. Tell him, Marcus spoke quietly, almost gently, which somehow made it worse. Claire, you were under tremendous stress. You were seeing Dr. Patterson for a reason. I don't want to destroy you in court. I really don't. Just sign the papers. Walk away with your dignity intact. Finch leaned forward. Walk away, Mrs. Thorne, or we will systematically dismantle your credibility, your mental health history, and your professional reputation in open court. The choice is entirely yours. Claire stared at the signature line. She had $3,000 in her checking account. No family to support her, no job prospects. And Marcus had unlimited resources, unlimited lawyers, unlimited time to destroy her. She signed. Marcus stood immediately, relief visible on his face. Thank you for being reasonable, Claire. I truly hope you land on your feet. He left without another word, already pulling out his phone, already moving on to the next meeting, the next deal, the next chapter of his life, where she didn't exist. Claire sat alone in the conference room, staring at her signature bleeding through the pages. Finch collected the papers with efficient movements. Oh, and Mrs. Thorne, if you breach this NDA, the penalty is $5 million plus legal fees and court costs. I trust you'll be careful about what you say and to whom you say it. Present day. Claire jerked back to the present, her apartment coming back into focus. The memory tasted like ashes in her mouth. That had been 8 weeks ago. 8 weeks of working freelance jobs under a pseudonym, CM Digital Solutions, barely scraping together $2,800 a month. 8 weeks of watching Marcus on magazine covers and conference stages, talking about his vision, his innovation, his life's work. And now she was pregnant with his child, and he didn't even know. Claire opened her laptop and searched for Marcus's name. The results were overwhelming. TechCrunch, Marcus Thorne, Innovator of the Year. Forbes, the mind behind Chimera AI. Wired had done an entire profile, complete with technical breakdowns of Chimera's architecture. All her work, all his name. She found a video interview from last week, clicked play, watched Marcus's charming smile fill the screen. Marcus, people ask about your ex-wife Claire, the interviewer said. She was there in the early days, wasn't she? What happened? Marcus leaned back in his chair, utterly comfortable. Claire was wonderful, truly, a talented coder, very detail-oriented, great at following specifications, but she didn't have the vision for what Chimera could become. She wanted to stay small, academic, publish papers. I needed to think bigger, to scale, to change industries. Sometimes you outgrow your partners, in business and in life. So she's not involved with Thorn Industries anymore? Claire has moved on to other things, different career path. I wish her well, of course. But Chimera? Marcus smiled. That's my baby. Claire's laptop went flying across the room, crashing into the wall. She was screaming, sobbing, alone in her tiny apartment at 3 in the morning. She sank to the floor, pulling her knees to her chest, careful not to press too hard against her stomach where a different baby was growing. He erased me, Claire whispered, not just from the company, from history, like I never existed, like I was nothing. She touched her stomach, felt a slight swell that would soon become impossible to hide. But I'm not nothing, she said to the baby. I'm not nothing. I built something incredible, and he stole it. But you, her voice broke. You're mine, he can't steal you. Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat on her bathroom floor until dawn broke, trying to figure out how to survive in a world where the father of her child had taken everything else she'd ever created and called it his own. Morning came too soon and brought no answers. Claire dragged herself to the Women's Health Clinic in downtown Oakland at 9 in the morning, bleary-eyed and nauseous. The waiting room was cheerful, decorated with posters of smiling mothers and healthy babies. Claire felt like an imposter among the happy couples holding hands and rubbing pregnant bellies with joy. Sarah Martinez was kind, efficient, and matter-of-fact. She was in her 50s, with warm eyes and gentle hands that knew what they were doing. Well, congratulations, Dr. Martinez said, studying the ultrasound screen. You're about 8 weeks along, strong heartbeat. Based on your last menstrual period, conception would have been around mid-March. Does that sound right? Claire did the math and felt the room tilt. Mid-March, that was, oh God. Dr. Martinez looked up from her chart. Everything okay? I got divorced 6 weeks ago, Claire said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. We'd been separated for 2 months before that, but there was one night in early March. We met to talk about final details. We had wine and She couldn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Dr. Martinez set down her clipboard and rolled her stool closer. Does the father know? No. Claire's voice was flat. And he can't know. He destroyed my career, took credit for 7 years of my work, and left me with nothing. And now I'm tied to him for the rest of my life. Claire, you have options. If you're not ready, no. The word came out fierce, protective. Claire's hand went to her stomach. No, I want this baby. This baby is mine, not his. Mine. Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. Okay, then we're going to take good care of both of you. But I need you to be honest with me about your support system. Do you have family nearby? Friends who can help? Claire thought about her parents in Florida, who'd stopped speaking to her when she dropped out of MIT to marry Marcus. Thought about the friends who'd slowly drifted away during the marriage, the ones who'd chosen Marcus's side in the divorce, or simply couldn't handle the awkwardness. I have one friend, Claire said. My roommate from MIT, Jordan Hayes. She's the only one who still calls. Then I suggest you call her back, DeMartinez said gently. You're going to need help. Being pregnant is hard enough when you have support. Doing it alone, with everything else you are dealing with. She shook her head. Call your friend. Claire left the clinic with a folder full of prenatal information, a prescription for vitamins, and a follow-up appointment in 4 weeks. She sat in her aging Honda Civic in the parking lot and stared at her phone. Jordan had texted 3 times in the last week. Claire had ignored them all, too ashamed to admit how bad things had gotten. But now, with Dr. Martinez's words echoing in her head in morning sickness churning in her gut, Claire finally typed out a response. Can we meet? I need to talk. Jordan's reply came in less than 30 seconds. Coffee shop on Telegraph, 1 hour, I'll be there. The coffee shop was one of those Oakland hipster places with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Jordan was already there when Claire arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of her. She stood up as soon as she saw Claire. Jesus, Claire, Jordan said, taking in Claire's appearance. You look pregnant, broke, homeless? Claire tried to smile but couldn't quite manage it. I was going to say, like, you need a friend. Come here. Jordan pulled Claire into a hug, and that's when Claire finally broke down. She sobbed into Jordan's shoulder in the middle of the coffee shop, not caring who saw, not caring about anything except that someone actually seemed to care whether she lived or died. They sat down. Jordan pushed one of the cups toward Claire. Decaf tea. Figured you might need it. How did you know? You texted, I need to talk at 10 in the morning on a Tuesday. You either got a dog or you're pregnant, and you can't afford a dog right now. Despite everything, Claire laughed. It felt foreign, like a language she'd forgotten how to speak. Tell me, Jordan said. All of it. So Claire did. She told Jordan about the pregnancy, about watching Marcus announce the IPO on technology Claire had built, about the NDA that prevented her from claiming credit for her own work, about the $75,000 that was already almost gone, spent on lawyers and a rent and trying to survive in one of the most expensive cities in the country. Jordan listened without interrupting, her journalist brain clearly working through the story, finding the angles, the injustices, the narrative thread. That son of a bitch, Jordan finally said. Claire, there has to be something we can do. I'm a journalist. I can investigate. I can write a story that... You can't, Claire cut her off. The NDA. If I breach it, I owe him $5 million. I don't even have $5,000 right now. What if someone else exposed him? Not you. Someone who discovered evidence independently. Claire shook her head. Jordan, you could lose your job, your career. And for what? To prove something everyone already knows doesn't matter? Marcus won. The system is built for people like him. Screw the system. Jordan leaned forward, intensity burning in her eyes. My career is covering city council meetings and restaurant openings. I haven't written anything that matters in 3 years. This matters, Claire. You matter. I don't need justice, Claire said quietly. I need to be able to feed my baby, to keep a roof over our heads. Justice is a luxury I can't afford. What if you could do both? Jordan pulled out her laptop and opened it to an underground tech forum Claire recognized. Tech Warriors, where developers and engineers discussed industry news and tore apart new technologies with brutal honesty. Look at this, Jordan said, pointing to a thread about Chimera. This was posted 2 days ago. Claire read the comments. Tech Wizard 99 had written, anyone else notice Chimera hasn't evolved in 18 months? The core architecture is brilliant, but it's stagnant, like a masterpiece locked in a basement. Whoever built this isn't maintaining it. Code Warrior responded, agreed. It's technically perfect, but not growing. Someone at Thorn doesn't understand what they have. Data Ninja added, I've been saying this for months. Marcus Thorn gives great interviews, but can't answer detailed technical questions. Watch any of his presentations. He deflects or uses buzzwords. He didn't build Chimera. Someone else did. Claire stared at the screen, something stirring in her chest. Hope, anger. She wasn't sure. The tech community knows something's wrong, Jordan said. They just don't know what or who. But what if CM Digital Solutions could show them something better? Who's CM Digital Solutions? Jordan grinned. You are. That's your freelance alias, right? Claire Morgan, CM Digital. The NDA says you can't work in data architecture or AI development. But what about quantum predictive modeling? That's technically a different field. Adjacent, but different. Close enough to use your skills, different enough to maybe not violate the non-compete clause. Claire's mind was already racing. Even if that loophole works, I'd need resources, lab space, processing power, time. I'm pregnant, Jordan. I have maybe 6 months before I physically can't work 18-hour days anymore. And Marcus has unlimited money to shut me down the second he notices. I know someone who might be able to help, Jordan said. His name is David Carter. He runs a co-working space in Oakland, lost his own company to a business partner years ago. He knows what it's like to be stolen from. Claire wanted to say no, wanted to protect herself from more disappointment, more failure. But when she thought about her baby growing inside her, about what kind of mother she wanted to be, the answer was clear. She couldn't be a mother who gave up. Okay, Claire said, let's meet him. The Carter co-work space was in a converted warehouse in West Oakland, the kind of neighborhood where tech startups went to die quietly. But inside, the space hummed with determined energy. Maybe 15 desks spread across an open floor plan, occupied by scrappy founders in hoodies, grinding away on their next ventures. David Carter was not what Claire expected. She'd imagined someone young, hungry, aggressive. Instead, she met a tired-looking man in his early 40s with kind eyes and the worn expression of someone who'd learned hard lessons. "You're Claire Morgan," David said, shaking her hand. "Jordan's told me about you. She said you might be able to help with a project." David gestured to a desk in the corner. "I can give you space here, free for the first 3 months. After that, $200 a month if you can manage it. I have server access you can use at night when the rates are cheaper, and I know some angel investors who might listen to a pitch if you've got something solid." It was more generous than Claire had any right to expect. She needed to be honest. "I should tell you something," Claire said. "I'm 8 weeks pregnant, which means I have about 6 months before I'm too physically compromised to pull all-nighters. And the person I'm up against has unlimited resources and has already destroyed me once. So this is probably a terrible investment of your time and space." David was quiet for a moment, studying her face. Then he said, "10 years ago, my business partner pushed me out of the company I founded, took credit for my work, and went public without me. I spent 2 years and $2 million fighting him in court." "I'm sorry," Claire said. "Don't be, Baggy. It taught me something important. You can't beat these people in court. The system is built for them. Rich guys with expensive lawyers always win, but you can beat them in the market. You can build something so good, so undeniable, that the world has to see the truth." "Did you?" Claire asked. "Beat him?" David smiled, but it was sad around the edges. "No, I ran out of money first, but I learned something valuable. I was trying to win back what he stole. I should have been building something new, something better, something he couldn't steal because it didn't exist yet." He extended his hand. "I can't save you, Claire. I couldn't even save myself. But maybe we can help each other build something that matters. What do you say?" Claire looked at the desk in the corner, at the window with its view of Oakland stretching toward the bay, at this man offering her a chance when she had nothing. She shook his hand. "Deal." That afternoon, Claire set up her workspace. One desk, one monitor borrowed from David, her laptop that had survived the earlier throw. She opened a new project file and stared at the blank screen. 6 months, she whispered to her stomach. 6 months to build a future, for both of us. Her fingers found the keyboard, and for the first time in months, Claire Morgan started to code. The first month was brutal. Claire worked 14-hour days at the co-working space, coding until her eyes burned and her back ached. Morning sickness hit without warning, sending her running to the bathroom multiple times per shift. David kept a stash of crackers and ginger ale at his desk specifically for her. He never said anything, just left them where she could grab them. The other founders in the space pretended not to notice when Claire fell asleep at her keyboard or when she was sick in the bathroom for the third time before noon. They were all fighting their own battles, chasing their own impossible dreams. Failure was too familiar to comment on. During the day, Claire took freelance gigs to pay rent, website updates, database maintenance, the kind of mind-numbing work that paid bills but didn't require creativity. She'd fallen far from the cutting-edge AI research she'd done for Chimera, but bills didn't care about pride. At night, she built Genesis. Genesis was everything Chimera should have become. Where Chimera analyzed data patterns, Genesis predicted quantum possibilities. Where Chimera made educated guesses, Genesis modeled multiple futures simultaneously and calculated probability cascades. It was next-generation technology, and Claire was building it alone in a corner of a warehouse while her body grew a human being. She was 12 weeks pregnant when Genesis first worked. The test was simple: predict supply chain disruptions in the semiconductor industry 72 hours in advance. Chimera could do it with about 60% accuracy. Genesis hit 93% on the first try. Claire stared at the results, hardly daring to breathe. She ran the test again. 94%. Again, 92%. It was real. It worked. It was better. David found her crying at her desk at 2 in the morning. "What's wrong?" he asked, concerned. "Is it the baby?" "No," Claire laughed through tears. "It works, David. Genesis actually works. It's better than Chimera. It's better than anything on the market." David looked at the screen, at the numbers that proved what Claire had built. He sat down heavily in the chair next to her. How much better? 47% more accurate than Chimera, on less processing power, with cleaner code. Jesus, Claire. David ran his hands through his hair. This is real. This could actually compete. If we can get funding, Claire said, if we can scale it up, if Marcus doesn't destroy us first. One problem at a time, David said. First, we need to prove Genesis isn't just a fluke. We need multiple successful tests, real-world applications, results that speak for themselves. So they tested, and tested, and tested. By 13 weeks pregnant, Claire had proven Genesis could outperform Chimera in supply chain analysis, weather pattern prediction, financial market modeling, and epidemiological forecasting. The results were undeniable. The tech community started to notice. An anonymous blogger called The Code Review posted, "Mysterious developer Digital Solutions has published some fascinating papers on quantum predictive modeling. If even half of what they claim is true, we're looking at a paradigm shift in AI analytics." Tech Twitter picked it up. Who is CM Digital? Why haven't we heard of them before? Jordan tracked every mention, building a media strategy. David reached out to angel investors he knew. And Claire kept coding, kept testing, kept proving that she was more than what Marcus had tried to make her believe. At 14 weeks, Claire's baby bump was starting to show. She switched to looser clothing, avoided video calls, worked mostly at night when fewer people were around. She couldn't afford for anyone to connect CM Digital Solutions to Claire Morgan. The ex-wife, Marcus Thorne, had publicly dismissed as not having vision. "You need to take care of yourself," Jordan said one evening, bringing dinner to the co-working space. "You barely eat. You're not sleeping. This isn't sustainable." "I have 6 months," Claire said, not looking up from her code. "Less, if I'm being realistic. Once I'm too pregnant to hide it, questions start. Once the baby comes, I'll have maybe 3 months of savings before I'm broke. This is my only window. What if you faint? What if you hurt yourself? What if something happens to the baby?" Claire finally looked up. Her eyes were hollow with exhaustion. "Jordan, I'm doing this for the baby, so they have a mother who isn't broken, who isn't nothing." "You were never nothing? And then why does it feel like I was?" Jordan didn't have an answer for that. At 15 weeks, David arranged something that changed everything. A small tech conference in San Jose, mostly angel investors and industry journalists. David had convinced the organizers to let CM Digital Solutions present a demo of Genesis. "It's only 50 people," David explained, "but they're the right 50 people. Tech press, investment groups, some folks from the major companies. If Genesis impresses them, word spreads fast." Claire's hands shook as she looked at the invitation. "I can't go in person. Someone might recognize me." "You don't have to. I'll present the demo on stage. You can do the technical explanation virtually, with your camera off and a voice modulator. It's not unusual for developers to be camera shy." "Marcus will hear about it," Claire said. "The second we present, if it's any good, he'll know." "Let him know," David said. "What's he going to do? You're not violating the NDA. You're working in a different field, with different technology, and you're using a pseudonym. Everything's legal." Claire wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that for once, following the rules would be enough to protect her. She spent 2 weeks preparing for the presentation, refining Genesis, creating demonstrations that would prove its capabilities beyond question. Jordan helped prepare talking points and media strategy. David rehearsed the presentation until he could explain Genesis's quantum architecture in his sleep. At 16 weeks pregnant, Claire's belly was unmistakably round. She bought professional maternity clothes for the first time, spent money she didn't have on looking legitimate. For the virtual presentation, she'd be Cameron Morgan, Chief Technology Officer of CM Digital Solutions. Just different enough from Claire Morgan to avoid immediate recognition. The night before the conference, Claire couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, touching her stomach, feeling the slight flutters that might have been the baby moving, or might have been her imagination. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "tomorrow we show them what we're worth." The conference was at the San Jose Convention Center, a massive space that made their small presentation room feel intimate by comparison. David set up the demo while Claire connected remotely from the co-working space in Oakland, her computer screen showing the presentation room, but her camera firmly off. 50 people filed in. Claire recognized some faces from tech journalism, a few from venture capital firms. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might damage the baby. David began the presentation. He was nervous but solid, explaining the limitations of current predictive AI and introducing Genesis as the next evolution. "Traditional AI analyzes historical data to make predictions," David said. "But what if we could model multiple potential futures simultaneously and calculate probability cascades across all of them? That's what Genesis does." He nodded to the screen and Claire's modulated voice came through the speakers. "Genesis uses quantum probability modeling to analyze not just what happened, but what could happen," Claire explained, her voice digitally altered to sound lower, less feminine. "We're not predicting one future. We're modeling millions of possible futures and identifying the most probable paths." The live demo was Claire's masterpiece. She'd programmed Genesis to predict a supply chain disruption that Chimera had completely missed 2 weeks earlier. The demo ran in real time, Genesis processing data and producing results in less than 30 seconds. The prediction was startlingly specific. A key semiconductor facility in Taiwan would experience a cooling system failure in 48 hours, causing a 3-week delay in chip production that would impact 6 major tech companies. "This already happened," David explained, 2 weeks ago, exactly as Genesis predicted. Chimera missed it entirely. Companies using Chimera lost millions in unexpected delays. Companies using Genesis could have prepared. The room erupted in whispers. Claire watched through her screen as investors leaned forward. Journalists scribbled notes. Tech executives exchanged meaningful glances. A journalist from TechCrunch raised her hand. "How does Genesis compare to Chimera AI in terms of accuracy?" Claire answered through the modulator. "On average, Genesis achieves 47% higher predictive accuracy across multiple domains: supply chain, weather modeling, financial forecasting, epidemiology. We've run over 500 comparative tests. Genesis wins in every category." Another question. "This makes Chimera look like a calculator from 1995. Why haven't we heard of you before?" David fielded that one. "UM Digital Solutions has been in stealth mode for the past year. We wanted to be absolutely certain Genesis worked before making claims. Now we're ready to scale." After the presentation, a well-dressed man in his 60s approached David. Claire could see him through the live feed, but couldn't hear the conversation. Her heart hammered as David smiled, shook hands, and then pulled out his phone to call her. "Claire, this is Richard Henderson. He's a major angel investor. He wants to talk funding." Claire's hands shook as she answered questions about technical specifications, scalability, go-to-market strategy. Henderson seemed impressed, asking smart questions that showed he understood the technology. "I'll have my team draw up a term sheet," Henderson said. $750,000 seed round. Fair valuation, standard terms. "I want in on this." After he left, David called Claire directly. She could hear the excitement in his voice. "We did it! 750K! Claire, this is real. We can hire engineers, rent proper lab space, get you on actual payroll instead of living on freelance scraps." Claire was crying, happy tears for once instead of desperate ones. "We can afford this baby, David. I can get a real doctor, good insurance, maybe even a nursery." "You deserve all of it," David said. "You always did." That night, Jordan came over with champagne, which Claire couldn't drink, and sparkling cider, which she could. They sat in Claire's cramped apartment, celebrating a victory that felt impossible just months ago. "You're brilliant," Jordan said, raising her glass. "You always were. Now the world knows." Claire touched her stomach, where her baby was growing strong. "I'm going to give you everything," she whispered. "A mother you can be proud of. A life that's stable and safe. I promise." For 36 hours, Claire allowed herself to believe it was true. On the third morning after the presentation, Claire arrived at the co-working space to find two people waiting at her desk. They were wearing windbreakers with large letters across the back. FB, Claire's vision tunneled. Her hands instinctively went to her stomach, protective, as if she could shield her baby from whatever was about to happen. "Claire Morgan?" the female agent asked. She was in her 40s, professional, with the kind of neutral expression that came from delivering bad news regularly. "Yes," Claire managed. "I'm Special Agent Sarah Williams. This is Special Agent Kevin Anderson. We need to ask you some questions about Project Genesis and potential theft of trade secrets." The world tilted. David came running from his office. "What's going on? Claire hasn't stolen anything." Agent Williams held up a hand. "Sir, please step back. Ms. Morgan, we have a complaint from Thorne Industries claiming that Project Genesis is derivative of their proprietary technology, Chimera, and that you, as a former employee with access to classified code, violated your employment agreement by building competing technology." "That's insane." Claire's voice rose. "I built Chimera. Genesis isn't derivative, it's completely different architecture. We also have evidence suggesting you fraudulently solicited investment using stolen intellectual property," Agent Anderson said. "He was younger, harder around the edges, and that you violated a court-ordered non-disclosure agreement." Agent Williams handed Claire a document. It was a cease and desist letter from Harrison Finch's law firm, filled with legal language that Claire's panicking brain could barely process. The key phrase jumped out. "Project Genesis violates NDA Section 14.3. Any derivative works based on concepts, architecture, or methodologies developed during employment. All work on Genesis must cease immediately. Additionally, Thorne Industries is filing criminal charges for theft of trade secrets under 18 U.S.C. Section 1932. Potential penalties include up to 10 years federal prison and up to $5 million in fines." Claire sank into her chair. He knew. Marcus knew the whole time. David grabbed the letter, reading furiously. "This is garbage. Claire built Genesis from scratch. The code is completely original. That will be determined through proper legal channels," Agent Williams said. "But there's more you should know, Ms. Morgan." She pulled out another document. A financial disclosure. Claire's eyes found the relevant line and her stomach dropped. Richard Henderson, the angel investor who'd offered $750,000, sat on Thorne Industries' board of directors. "It was a trap," Claire whispered. "They let me show Genesis to investors, just to gather evidence." "Ms. Morgan, we're going to need to seize your laptop, backup drives, and any materials related to Project Genesis," Agent Anderson said. "They're evidence in a federal investigation." "No." Claire's arms wrapped around her laptop like she could protect it. "This is my work, my original work. You can't just take—" "We have a warrant, ma'am." Agent Williams wasn't unkind, but she was firm. "I'm sorry, but this is happening." They took everything. Claire's laptop, her backup drives, her notebooks filled with equations and architecture diagrams, her external hard drives. Every piece of evidence that she'd built Genesis legitimately, independently, better than Chimera, because she was better than Marcus had ever given her credit for. David tried to intervene. "She has rights. You can't just—" "Sir, if you interfere with a federal investigation, I will arrest you too." It took 20 minutes for them to catalog and remove everything related to Genesis. When they left, Claire's desk was empty except for a receipt for seized materials and a business card for Agent Williams. "Ms. Morgan, I strongly suggest you retain legal counsel," Williams said before leaving. "These are serious charges." After they were gone, Claire sat at the empty desk and stared at nothing. David pulled up a chair beside her. "Okay," he said, trying to sound calm. "This is bad, but it's not over. We'll find you a lawyer. There are pro bono services, legal aid organizations. With what money, David? Claire's voice was hollow. My bank accounts are frozen pending investigation. The investment is blocked. I have maybe $800 in Poirot and 18 weeks of pregnancy left. We'll figure it out. Jordan has connections. Maybe she knows a lawyer who... Marcus has an entire law firm, Claire said. He has unlimited money, unlimited time, unlimited resources to destroy me. Again, and this time if I fight back, I go to prison. And then what happens to my baby? David had no answer. Claire looked at her empty desk, at the space where her laptop had been, at the future she tried to build disappearing like it had never existed. I should have known, she said quietly. I should have known he'd never let me win. That evening, Claire sat on the floor of her apartment, staring at the divorce papers she'd saved, the NDA with her signature, the document that had started all of this. Her phone buzzed with texts from Jordan offering help, from David saying they'd find a way through this. But Claire couldn't make herself respond. What was the point? Marcus had won again. He always won. That's what happened when you fought people with unlimited resources and a system built to protect them. She pulled out her phone and opened her email, started typing to Harrison Finch. I'll sign whatever you want. I'll shut down Genesis. I'll disappear. Just make this stop. Her finger hovered over the send button. One click and it would be over. She'd survive. Her baby would be born. They'd be poor, but they'd be together. That had to be enough. Before she could press send, her phone rang. Unknown number. Claire almost didn't answer, but something made her swipe to accept. Don't sign anything, a woman's voice said. Don't send that email. Claire's blood went cold. Who is this? Victoria Ashford Thorne, the voice said. Your ex-husband's wife. We need to meet tonight. There's something you need to see. Claire sat in a back booth at a 24-hour diner in Oakland at 11 at night, 17 weeks pregnant, waiting for the woman who'd stolen her husband to show up and offer. What exactly? Help? More humiliation? When Victoria arrived, she looked nothing like the polished, magazine cover woman Claire had seen on Marcus's arm at every tech gala. No designer clothes, no professional makeup, just jeans, a hoodie, and exhaustion carved into her features. She slid into the booth across from Claire without preamble. I know you don't trust me. I wouldn't trust me either. But I'm going to give you something anyway. She placed a small USB drive on the table between them. What is that? Claire asked. Insurance. Victoria's voice was flat, matter-of-fact. 6 months ago, I discovered Marcus was planning to divorce me immediately after the IPO. There's a clause in our prenup. If the marriage ends within 2 years of a major liquidity event, I get nothing. Zero. He married me with an expiration date already in mind. Claire stared at the USB drive like it might explode. Why are you telling me this? Because that drive contains 6 months of Marcus's private emails. Emails to Finch about legal strategy. Emails to investors where he admits he doesn't understand Chimera's core architecture. Emails to his engineering team where he begs them to explain the technology to him in terms simple enough that he can fake his way through board meetings. Claire's hand moved toward the drive, then stopped. This would destroy him. Yes. Victoria's expression didn't change. So why help me? You could use this in your divorce, get your settlement despite the prenup. The prenup has a mutual non-disclosure clause, Victoria interrupted. If I expose him, I breach the agreement and lose everything anyway. But your NDA is already blown. He's already suing you, pressing federal charges. You have nothing left to lose. So I'm your proxy. Claire felt something cold settle in her chest. You want me to destroy your husband for you? I want you to stop him, Victoria corrected. There's a difference. They sat in silence for a moment. Claire studied Victoria's face, looking for the angle, the trap, the hidden cost. Why? Claire finally asked. Why risk this? What do you get out of it? Victoria was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was different, softer, more real. I grew up in rural West Virginia, she said. My dad worked in the mines. My mom was a cashier at Dollar General. We had nothing. I worked 3 jobs to get through college at a state school nobody's ever heard of. Started as an executive assistant, clawed my way up to VP by being smarter, tougher, more ruthless than everyone else. She looked down at her hands. When I met Marcus, I saw him as my way out of poverty, out of debt, out of always being one medical emergency away from bankruptcy. I didn't care what I had to do to get there. I told myself survival justifies everything. But, Claire prompted, but watching what he's doing to you, Victoria's voice cracked. You're pregnant. You're his ex-wife. You built a technology that made him rich, and he's trying to send you to federal prison. There's survival, and then there's being a monster. She looked up, meeting Claire's eyes. I won't be a monster. Not even for money. Claire picked up the USB drive. It was small, ordinary, containing the power to detonate Marcus's entire empire. If I use this, he'll know it came from you, Claire said. He'll destroy you. I have my own insurance. Victoria pulled out a folder and slid it across. Legal separation papers. Documentation of his threats. Recordings of him admitting the prenup was designed to trap me. I've been planning my exit for 3 months. The question is, do you have the guts to use what I'm giving you? Claire held the USB drive in her palm. Such a small thing to contain so much power. If I do this, there's no going back, for either of us. Good, Victoria said. I'm done going backwards. Back at her apartment, Claire plugged in the USB drive with shaking hands. Jordan had come over after Claire's cryptic text about meeting Victoria, and now they sat together staring at the screen as files populated. Jesus, Jordan breathed, scrolling through email after email. Claire, this is everything. His entire fraud laid out in writing. One email from Marcus to his chief technology officer, dated just 6 months ago. I need a complete technical briefing before the investor roadshow. Include diagrams simple enough for a child to understand. I can't fake my way through detailed architecture questions anymore. Someone always asks something I can't answer. Another to Finch. Claire built something I don't fully understand. The engineers tell me Chimera is revolutionary, but they lose me after the first paragraph of explanation. How do I make sure she can never prove it was hers? Email after email showing Marcus's desperate attempts to understand the technology he'd claimed as his own creation, to hide his ignorance, to take credit for work he couldn't begin to replicate. This proves everything, Claire said, that I built Chimera, that he stole it, that he's been lying to investors for years. More than that, Jordan said, her journalist instincts firing. This proves securities fraud. He's about to take a company public based on technology he doesn't understand and claims he invented. The SEC would crucify him. Claire's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Check your email, JW. Claire opened her email and found a message from an address she didn't recognize, redacted at whitmoretech.com. The subject line read, The Crucible, Final Challenge, The Architect. Claire's hands started shaking before she even opened it. What is it? Jordan asked. I've been solving these codings challenges for over a year, Claire explained, clicking open the email. They're posted by someone anonymous, but rumored to be connected to James Whitmore, the billionaire who founded Whitmore Technologies. Prize money is small, but the problems are incredible. I've solved every single one. She read the email aloud. CM Digital Solutions. You have solved 47 of our 47 challenges over 14 months. Perfect record, impossible record. I've been searching for you. The architect challenge is different. It's not about code, it's about truth. Who are you really, and what did they take from you? I can't give you justice, but I can give you a stage. Whitmore Tech Annual Summit takes place in 72 hours. Marcus Thorne is keynoting about the Thorne Industries IPO. I'm offering you 10 minutes after his presentation. 10 minutes to tell your story. Your real story. No lawyers, no NDAs. Just you, the truth, and 500 people in attendance plus 50,000 watching the live stream. The choice is yours. James Whitmore. The room was silent except for the sound of Claire's heart pounding in her ears. Holy shit, Jordan finally said. Claire, this is it. This is your chance. It's also career suicide, Claire said. If I go on that stage, I break the NDA publicly. Finch will sue me for $5 million. Marcus will use it to prove I'm unfit to have custody of our baby. I'll be bankrupt and in prison, and my child will grow up visiting their mother behind glass. Or, Jordan said carefully, you go on that stage with Victoria's emails and you end him. You tell the truth with proof that can't be denied. And maybe, just maybe, the truth matters more than money for once. Claire looked at her laptop screen, at Victoria's USB drive, at the email from James Whitmore offering her a worldwide stage. She thought about her baby, growing inside her, depending on her for everything. What kind of mother do I want it to be? Claire whispered. The kind who teaches my child to hide and survive? Or the kind who teaches them to fight for truth even when it costs everything? She looked at Jordan. If I do this, I need your help. I need evidence that's unassailable. I need documentation, timeline, technical proof, everything. Jordan was already pulling out her laptop. I'll get your MIT thesis records. Proof you completed the work before you even married Marcus. I'll need Victoria to get me more from Marcus's files. Dated documents showing when Chimera was created versus when Marcus claimed he had the idea. I can do that, said a voice from the doorway. Claire jumped. Victoria was standing in the apartment entrance that Claire had forgotten to lock. How long have you been there? Claire asked. Long enough. Victoria came inside, closing the door behind her. You're going to do it. You're going to tell the truth. I'm going to try my... Victoria pulled out her phone, bum. Then I'm going to get you everything you need. Marcus keeps a digital archive of everything related to Chimera. He calls it his legacy files. He's too arrogant to delete anything. I can access it. If he catches you, he won't. And if he does, Victoria shrugged. I'm done being afraid of him. The three women looked at each other across Claire's cramped apartment, an unlikely alliance born of desperation, anger, and something that might have been hope. We have 72 hours, Claire said. Let's build a case even Finch can't fight. They worked through the night. Jordan contacted MIT, navigating bureaucracy to get official records of Claire's thesis. Victoria accessed Marcus's files remotely, pulling down documents that showed the entire timeline of Chimera's creation. Claire compiled her original code, her early sketches, everything that proved Genesis was evolutionary, not derivative. At dawn, Jordan made a discovery that changed everything. Claire, look at this. Jordan pointed to a document from Marcus's archive. This is your original proposal for Chimera, dated March 15th, 2018, before you even met Marcus. Claire stared at the document. It was a paper she'd presented at a tech conference describing a revolutionary approach to predictive data modeling, the same conference where she'd met Marcus. He found me because of this paper, Claire said slowly. He targeted me, courted me, convinced me to drop out of MIT and build Chimera. It wasn't romance, it was acquisition. It's worse than that, Victoria said grimly. She was reading through more emails. Look at this. Email from Marcus to a business consultant, dated April 20th, 18, 2 weeks after your first date. Quote, found my CTO. Brilliant, insecure, easy to control. Will convince her to drop out and build my company. Women like her respond to confidence and vision. By the time she realizes I can't code my way out of a paper bag, she'll be too invested to walk away. The room went silent. He planned this from the beginning. Claire's voice was barely a whisper. Our entire relationship was a strategy to steal my work. Jordan's hand covered her mouth. Oh my God, Claire. Claire felt something shift inside her. Not just anger. Something colder, more focused. She touched her stomach where her daughter was growing. He hunted me, she said, targeted me like prey, made me fall in love with him so he could take everything I created and call it his. She looked at Jordan and Victoria. 72 hours. We're going to expose every single lie, and we're going to do it in front of the entire world. 48 hours before the Whitmore Tech Summit, Marcus called Claire. She stared at his name on her phone screen for 3 rings before answering. Jordan and Victoria were both present, listening on speaker. Claire, Marcus's voice was smooth, controlled. We need to talk. About how you're trying to send me to federal prison? Claire kept her voice steady. Or about how you fraudulently solicited investment by claiming you invented technology you can't even explain? A pause. When Marcus spoke again, his voice had changed. Harder. Don't do something you'll regret. I know you're planning to make a scene at the Whitmore Summit. It's a mistake. How did you? I have people everywhere, Claire. Did you really think James Whitmore would invite you to speak without me finding out? I made some calls, had the invitation rescinded. Claire's heart stopped. Jordan was already typing furiously on her laptop. You're lying, Claire said, though she wasn't sure. Call Whitmore Technologies. Ask them. Or better yet, don't waste your time. Instead, think about what's best for our child. My child, Claire corrected, not ours. That baby is half mine, Claire, which means I have rights, legal rights that I'm prepared to exercise. Victoria was pulling up documents on her phone, passing them to Claire. Custody filings. Marcus had already started the process. Here's what's going to happen, Marcus continued. You're going to sign a new agreement. Enhanced NDA, zero tech work for 20 years, permanent non-disparagement. In exchange, I drop the criminal charges. You get $2,000 per month in child support, and we share custody, 50-50. You want to take my baby half the time? I want my child to have a stable life, not a mother who's in federal prison for corporate espionage. Claire's hands shook with rage. You're blackmailing me with my own child. I'm protecting our child from an unstable mother with a documented history of anxiety and poor judgment, which is exactly what my lawyers will prove in court if you fight me. I'll tell them the truth, that you stole my work, and you'll sound crazy. Bitter ex-wife with mental health issues making wild accusations against her successful ex-husband. Who do you think they'll believe? Claire closed her eyes, hated that he was probably right. You have 48 hours to accept, Marcus said. After that, the criminal prosecution moves forward. The FBI has already seized your equipment. They have enough evidence to convict you. Sign the papers, Claire. Save yourself. Save our baby. He hung up. Claire sat frozen. Jordan pulled up her laptop screen. He wasn't lying about Whitmore, Jordan said quietly. The invitation was rescinded 3 hours ago. Marcus got to them. Victoria was reading through more documents. The custody filing is real too. He's claiming you're financially unstable, emotionally compromised, and potentially dangerous. He's using your therapy records from your marriage. This can't be happening, Claire whispered. I finally had a chance to tell the truth, and he took it away again. There has to be another way, Jordan said. What if I break the story, publish everything we have before the summit? With what proof? Claire asked. Victoria's emails could be called fabricated. My MIT thesis just proves I did research years ago, not that I built Chimera. And Genesis was seized by the FBI. We have nothing that would hold up under the kind of legal assault Marcus can afford. The three women sat in defeated silence. Claire's phone buzzed. Another text from the same unknown number that had emailed about Whitmore. Check your door. Confused, Claire walked to her apartment door and opened it. A manila envelope sat on the doormat with no return address. She brought it inside and opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. A guest pass for the Whitmore Tech Summit, and a handwritten note. The official invitation may have been rescinded. This one wasn't. You have 10 minutes after Marcus finishes his keynote. I suggest you use them. The world is watching. J.W. Buyu. Claire's hands trembled, holding the paper. He still wants me to speak. Who is this guy? Victoria asked. James Whitmore, Jordan said, pulling up information on her laptop. Reclusive billionaire, founded Whitmore Technologies 30 years ago, known as the engineer's engineer because he actually codes, unlike most tech billionaires. Lost his wife 5 years ago, became even more reclusive. Runs anonymous coding challenges online to find real talent. Why would he help me? Claire asked. Maybe because he recognizes talent when he sees it, Jordan said. Or maybe because he's tired of frauds like Marcus. Claire looked at the guest pass, at the note, at her friends who'd risked everything to help her. She thought about her daughter growing inside her, about the kind of world she wanted her child to grow up in, about whether truth mattered at all when money could rewrite reality. If I do this, Claire said slowly, I lose everything. My baby's father will sue for custody. I'll be bankrupt from legal fees. I might go to prison, but at least, her voice broke, at least my daughter will know her mother fought, that she didn't just disappear. We'll fight with you, Jordan said. All of us, Victoria added. Claire made her decision. Then we have 48 hours to prepare. Let's make them count. They worked around the clock. Jordan verified every piece of evidence, double-checked dates, built a timeline that was unassailable. Victoria accessed more of Marcus's files, getting documentation of every lie, every stolen idea, every moment of fraud. Claire prepared her statement, rehearsing in front of the mirror while her baby kicked inside her. 24 hours before the summit, Claire received new legal papers from Finch. The custody agreement Marcus had threatened. The terms were brutal. Sign away her career, accept supervised visitation that could be reduced to nothing if Marcus claimed she was unstable, live on his charity for the rest of her life. He really thinks I'll sign this, Claire said, staring at the papers. Most people would, Victoria said quietly, when the alternative is losing everything. I already lost everything. Claire touched her stomach. Everything except her. And I won't let her grow up thinking her mother was a coward. The morning of the summit arrived. Claire dressed in professional maternity clothes, her 18-week baby bump unmistakable now. She looked at herself in the mirror, saw a woman who was broke, pregnant, facing prison and the loss of her child. Saw a woman who was done being silent. Let's go change the world, she said to her reflection. The San Francisco Convention Center was massive, intimidating, filled with the kind of people who'd never believed someone like Claire mattered. 500 attendees in person, 50,000 watching via live stream. The tech world's elite gathered to hear Marcus Thorne announce his triumphant IPO. Claire stood backstage with Jordan and David, who'd insisted on coming for moral support. Victoria was in the audience, sitting in the back, invisible among the crowd. On stage, Marcus was giving the performance of his life. 7 years ago, I had a vision, Marcus said, his voice filling the auditorium. A world where data doesn't just inform us, but transforms us. Where we don't just react to the future, but actively shape it. That vision became Project Chimera. Claire watched him on the monitor, this man she'd once loved, stealing her words, her ideas, her life's work with such practiced ease, it looked natural. In 3 weeks, Thorne Industries goes public at a valuation of $2.3 billion, Marcus continued. Chimera is changing industries, saving lives, reshaping how we understand the future itself. This is my life's work, my legacy, and this is just the beginning. Standing ovation, thunderous applause, Marcus basking in glory that belonged to someone else. James Whitmore appeared beside Claire. He was older than his photos suggested, gray-haired and intense, with eyes that missed nothing. Ms. Morgan, he said quietly, last chance to walk away. Claire looked at him. Why are you helping me? Because 30 years ago, my business partner tried to steal my company. I've fought him in court and won, but barely. It took everything I had, and I swore that if I ever saw another brilliant engineer being erased by a smooth-talking fraud, I'd give them the one thing I had that money can't buy. What's that? A stage. Whitmore smiled. Marcus is finishing. You're on in 2 minutes. What you do with those minutes is up to you. Marcus was taking a final bow, preparing to exit, when Whitmore walked onto the stage and took the microphone. Thank you, Marcus. Fascinating presentation, Whitmore said. Before you go, I'd like to introduce someone. She's been working with Whitmore Technologies on some very interesting problems. Please welcome Claire Morgan, architect of Project Genesis. The confusion in the audience was palpable. Claire walked onto the stage, visibly pregnant, visibly terrified, visibly determined. Marcus froze. His face went through shock, rage, panic in rapid succession. Claire took the microphone Whitmore offered. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped it. 500 people stared at her, 50,000 watched online. Cameras recording everything. This was it, her one chance, her only chance. She touched her stomach for courage and began to speak. My name is Claire Morgan, Claire said into the microphone. Her voice shook but held. 7 years ago, my name was Claire Thorne, and I built Project Chimera. The audience erupted in whispers. Marcus tried to interject, but Whitmore stepped between them, blocking his path to the microphone. This is absurd, Marcus said loudly. Security, can we please? Let her speak, Shipmore said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried authority. You had your time, Marcus. Now it's hers. Claire clicked the remote in her hand. The massive screen behind her lit up with an image, her MIT thesis title page. Chimera, a self-correcting predictive data matrix. Claire read. Author Claire Bennett Morgan, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, 2019. She heard gasps from the audience, saw journalists pulling out phones, already typing. I submitted this thesis 14 months before I officially withdrew from MIT. Claire continued. The university has the records, the timestamp, the peer review panel's approval. I was supposed to defend it in May 2019, but I'd already married Marcus by then. He told me the thesis didn't matter. That building the real thing was what mattered. Marcus was red-faced now, desperate. Claire, this isn't the time or place. You're right, Claire cut him off. The time was 7 years ago when you should have put my name on the patent. The place was in every interview where you called Chimera your creation instead of our creation. But we're here now, so let's talk about it. She clicked to the next slide. An email from Marcus to his engineering team, dated 2 years ago. I need someone to explain the recursive validation loop in layman's terms. Claire read aloud. Board meeting tomorrow and I can't BS my way through technical questions anymore. How does this thing actually work? The room went silent, shock settling over the audience like a heavy blanket. Here's another one, Claire said, advancing to the next slide. Email from Marcus to his attorney Harrison Finch, dated 3 years ago. Quote, Claire built something I don't fully understand. The engineers can explain it, but they lose me after the first paragraph. How do I make sure she can never prove it was hers? The whispers turned to outrage. Claire could see journalists frantically typing, tech executives exchanging significant looks. Marcus's face was now pale, sweat visible on his forehead. Those emails are private, Marcus shouted. This is industrial espionage. Finch! Harrison Finch stood from his seat in the audience, trying to salvage the situation. Mrs. Morgan, you are in violation of a legally binding non-disclosure agreement. Every word you speak costs you $5 million plus. Then I owe you $50 million by the time I'm done, Claire said. She was finding her strength now, anger burning through fear. Add it to the bill. She turned away from Marcus, away from Finch, toward the camera recording everything, toward the 50,000 people watching live, toward the future her daughter would grow up in. My name is Claire Morgan. I wrote every line of Chimera's core code. I designed the architecture. I solved the scalability problems. I created the self-correcting algorithms that make Chimera revolutionary. And when I asked for my name on the patent, my husband told me I was just the coder, that I had no vision, that I was, her voice cracked, that I was nothing. Claire paused, gathering herself. In the audience, she could see Jordan recording everything. Victoria watching with tears on her face. David nodding encouragement. So I signed an NDM saying, Daimar. Claire continued, I signed away my work, my name, my future. I took $75,000 in a condo I couldn't afford, and I disappeared. And for 2 years, I watched Marcus become a billionaire off my work. Watched him give interviews about his vision. Watched the world call him a genius. Claire, please. Marcus's voice had changed. Desperate now. You're not well. The pregnancy hormones. Claire's laugh was bitter. I'm 18 weeks pregnant, Marcus. Do the math. Conceived 3 weeks before our divorce was finalized. The baby is yours. The gasps were audible now. Camera flashes going off like lightning. And when I started building something new, Claire said, something that wasn't yours, something better than Chimera, you had me arrested. Federal agents seized my equipment, froze my bank accounts, and then, when you found out about the baby, you threatened to take custody unless I signed away my entire career for 20 years. That's not, I was trying to protect. Marcus was spiraling, losing control. You weren't protecting anyone, Claire said. You were protecting your lie. She clicked to the next slide. Side-by-side code comparison. This is Chimera's core algorithm, she explained, and this is Project Genesis. If I'd stolen Chimera's code, they'd be identical. But they're not. Genesis is built on different architecture, different methodology, It's not derivative, it's evolutionary. It's better. She looked directly at Marcus, holding his gaze for the first time since stepping on stage. You called me nothing, Marcus. You told investors I was just support staff, told journalists I lacked vision. You erased me from the story of my own work, from the company I built, from the future I created. A beat, the entire auditorium silent. But here's what I learned about being nothing, Claire said. When you're nothing, you have nothing left to lose. So you can risk everything. You can stand on a stage in front of the world and tell the truth. You can say, I built this, it was mine, and you stole it. She touched her stomach where her daughter was growing. I'm going to have a baby girl. And I want her to know that her mother wasn't nothing, that her mother was the architect, that her mother built something beautiful and brilliant and true, and that when someone tried to take it away, her mother fought back. The standing ovation started in the back of the room, Jordan on her feet, clapping, then David, then Victoria, then a wave of people rising, applause building, until the entire auditorium was on their feet. Not for Marcus, for Claire. James Whitmore stepped forward and took the microphone. For those who don't know me, I'm James Whitmore. I built Whitmore Technologies from nothing 30 years ago. I've spent the last decade searching for real talent, not salesmanship, not charisma, real technical brilliance. He turned to face Marcus. CM Digital Solutions, Claire Morgan, has solved every impossible problem I've posted for 14 months. Problems my own engineers couldn't crack. She's demonstrated mastery of quantum predictive modeling that surpasses anything currently on the market. Mr. Thorne, I was considering a $500 million joint venture with Thorne Industries. Consider that offer permanently withdrawn. Marcus looked like he might collapse. You can't. This is defamation. Finch, do something. But Finch was already moving toward the exit, distancing himself from the disaster unfolding on stage. Whitmore turned to Claire. Ms. Morgan, I'd like to offer you a position as Chief Technology Officer of Whitmore Technologies. $300,000 annual salary, full benefits, comprehensive maternity leave, on-site childcare after your daughter is born, and 2% equity. Are you interested? Claire couldn't breathe. Yes, absolutely. Excellent. Report Monday morning. After you've rested. Whitmore exited, leaving Marcus alone on stage, his carefully constructed empire crumbling in real time. Backstage, Claire was immediately swarmed by journalists. Jordan appeared like a guardian angel, running interference. Ms. Morgan, are you filing a lawsuit against Marcus Thorne? No, Claire said. I'm moving forward, not backward. I'm building something new. What about custody of your baby? That's between me, my attorney, and my daughter's father. Next question. What's your message to other women whose work has been stolen? Claire paused, thought about every woman sitting in the dark in a cramped apartment, wondering if their voice mattered, wondering if they were nothing. You're not nothing, Claire said clearly. You were never nothing. Someone just needed you to believe you were so they could, oh, what's yours? Don't believe them. Build something so brilliant they can't ignore it. And when they try to take it, fight back. Tell your truth. You deserve to have your name on your work. The applause was thunderous. Meanwhile, on the main stage, SEC investigators were approaching Marcus. Mr. Thorne, we need to ask you some questions about your IPO filing, specifically about the inventor designation for Project Chimera and whether you made material misrepresentations to investors. I want my lawyer, Marcus said. Mr. Finch appears to have left the building, the SEC agent observed. Perhaps you should find another attorney. Victoria found Claire in the chaos backstage. You did it, Victoria said. We did it, Claire corrected. I couldn't have done this without your evidence. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, Victoria said. Starting over. No more shortcuts, no more survival at someone else's expense. What will you do? I don't know yet, but for the first time in my life, I get to figure that out for myself. Victoria smiled. Thank you for showing me what real courage looks like. They shook hands, not friends yet, but something like mutual respect. Claire left the convention center with Jordan and David, stepping out into San Francisco sunshine. She was 18 weeks pregnant, newly employed, and free for the first time in 7 years. What happens now? David asked. Now on, Claire touched her stomach. Now I build a future. For both of us. The next 72 hours were chaos. The tech press exploded with the story. Brilliant engineer exposes ex-husband's fraud in stunning conference takedown, led TechCrunch. Forbes ran The Woman Who Built Chimera Speaks, how Silicon Valley erases its actual innovators. Wired did a deep investigation into Marcus's emails, confirming everything Claire had claimed. Marcus's IPO was canceled. The SEC launched a formal investigation into securities fraud. Thorne Industries' board voted to remove him as CEO. His investors began filing lawsuits to recover their money. Harrison Finch was disbarred pending an ethics investigation into his role in suppressing Claire's claims. And Claire? Claire started working at Whitmore Technologies the following Monday, exactly as promised. The Morgan Innovation Lab was everything Claire had dreamed of during those desperate months in the co-working space. State-of-the-art equipment, a team of brilliant engineers, and James Whitmore himself as her mentor and partner. "You remind me why I got into this business," Whitmore told her during her first week. "Not to make money, to solve impossible problems with people smart enough to see solutions nobody else can imagine." "I can't believe this is real," Claire admitted. They were in the lab, late evening, Claire reviewing Genesis's code with fresh eyes and better resources. "Believe it," Whitmore said. "You earned it. Now let's scale Genesis and show the world what real innovation looks like." At 19 weeks pregnant, Claire had her first ultrasound at a real medical facility with excellent insurance. Dr. Martinez smiled as she moved the probe across Claire's belly. "There she is," Dr. Martinez said, pointing to the screen. "Your daughter. Strong heartbeat, good growth, everything looks perfect." Claire stared at the grainy image of her baby girl, her daughter, growing healthy and strong despite everything. "She's beautiful," Claire whispered. "She's a fighter," Dr. Martinez said, "like her mother." Jordan's investigative piece won major journalism awards. She was promoted to senior tech editor and given resources to investigate more stories of stolen credit and erased innovators in Silicon Valley. Victoria finalized her divorce within 3 months. Marcus tried to fight it, but the evidence of his prenup scheme was overwhelming. She walked away with a fair settlement and her freedom. Within 6 months, she completed her MBA and taken a position as COO of a female-founded startup focused on equitable tech practices. David became Vice President of Innovation at Whitmore Technologies, finally getting recognition for the brilliant strategic mind he'd always been. The Claire Morgan Fellowship was established with funding from Whitmore Technologies and Claire's own salary. It provided full scholarships and support to women in tech who'd been forced out of their programs or careers. The first year, they received 3,000 applications. "Fund them all," Claire told the board. "That's $45 million, one board member protested. "I have $45 million in equity and salary," Claire said. "Fund them. Every single one deserves a chance to finish what they started." But not everything resolved cleanly. Marcus sent letters, dozens of them, trying to negotiate custody, trying to be part of the baby's life, trying to apologize his way back to relevance. Claire ignored most of them. Until one arrived different from the others. It was handwritten, not typed by lawyers. The words were Marcus's without the polish of professional editing. "Claire, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But our daughter deserves a father who's at least trying to be better. I'm in therapy, real therapy, not the kind you do for court appearances. I'm selling the house, moving to a small apartment, trying to figure out who I am without the empire I built on your work. The SEC trial is next month. I'm probably going to prison. Maybe that's justice. But before I go, I need you to know I'm sorry. I was terrified of being ordinary, so I stole extraordinary from you. I told myself you were just support, because admitting you were the genius meant admitting I was nothing. I destroyed the best person in my life because I couldn't handle being second best. I'm sorry, not because I want forgiveness, I don't deserve it, but because you deserved to hear it 7 years ago, and I was too much of a coward to say it." Marcus, Claire read the letter 3 times. Jordan found her crying in her office at the lab. "What's wrong?" Jordan asked, concerned. "I don't know," Claire admitted. "Marcus apologized, really apologized, and I don't know what to do with that." "You don't have to do anything," Jordan said. "You don't owe him forgiveness. I know, but holding on to hate is exhausting. And I don't want to raise my daughter in a world where her parents are at war. Jordan sat beside her. What do you want? Claire touched her stomach, now round and unmistakable at 24 weeks. I want peace. I want to build my life without his shadow over everything. I want my daughter to know her mother chose strength over bitterness. She picked up her phone and called Marcus's number for the first time in months. He answered on the first ring. Claire? I got your letter, she said. I meant every word. I know, that's why I'm calling. Claire took a deep breath. I forgive you, Marcus. Not because you deserve it, because I deserve peace. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Can I meet her? When she's born? Can I at least... When you get out of prison, Claire said, if you're sober, if you've done the work, if you're genuinely a different person, maybe. But not now. Right now, she needs stability, and you can't provide that. That's fair. That's more than fair. For what it's worth, Claire added, what I built, Genesis, the Morgan Lab, everything, it's brilliant. It always was. You just couldn't admit it. I know, Marcus said quietly. I always knew. That's what made it so terrifying. Claire hung up and turned to Jordan. He's going to spend 8 to 12 years in prison for securities fraud. By the time he's out, our daughter will be old enough to decide if she wants to know him. Until then, it's just us. Just us, Jordan agreed. And your incredible job, massive fellowship program, and the fact that you're literally changing the industry. But sure, just us. Claire laughed. It felt good, natural, like breathing after holding your breath for years. At 28 weeks, Claire presented Genesis version 2 at the Whitmore Tech Annual Summit. This time, she stood on stage in professional maternity clothes. No disguises, no pseudonyms, no fear. My name is Claire Morgan, she said to 2,000 attendees and 100,000 watching online. Some of you remember me from last year. This year, I'm back with something better. Genesis version 2 was revolutionary. It didn't just predict probability cascades. It modeled quantum possibility spaces that could reshape entire industries. The demonstration left the tech world stunned. This is the future of predictive analytics, Claire said, built by women for everyone, available through open source licensing because innovation should be accessible, not hoarded. Standing ovation. Again. Afterward, a young woman approached Claire backstage. She was maybe 25, nervous, brilliant eyes. Ms. Morgan, I'm Sarah Thompson. I'm one of the Claire Morgan Fellows. I just wanted to say thank you. I was forced out of my PhD program when my advisor stole my research. Your fellowship gave me the resources to finish my work and publish it under my own name. And now I have job offers from 5 different companies. Claire hugged her. You did that, not me. You earned it. No, Sarah said. You showed me it was possible. That's everything. At 32 weeks pregnant, Claire hired a full engineering team for the Morgan Innovation Lab. 50 brilliant people, 60% of them women, all of them committed to building technology that mattered. At 36 weeks, Claire gave birth to Sophia Elizabeth Morgan. 7 pounds, 8 ounces, healthy, beautiful, perfect. Jordan was in the delivery room, filming the moment Claire first held her daughter. Hi, baby girl, Claire whispered. I'm your mom, and I have so many things to teach you. Sophia grabbed Claire's finger with surprising strength. You're already so strong, Claire said through tears, stronger than me. She gets it from you, Jordan said. Victoria sent flowers. David sent an enormous teddy bear. Whitmore sent a card. The world needs more Morgans. Congratulations. And Marcus, in prison awaiting trial, sent a letter. I'll never hold her, never see her first steps, never hear her say daddy. I deserve that. But please tell her someday that her father loved her. Even if he was too broken to show it properly. Even if he destroyed everything else. Tell her I loved her. Claire put the letter in a box labeled, For Sophia, when she's ready. 6 months after Sophia was born, Claire stood in MIT's Grand Hall receiving an honorary doctorate. To Claire Morgan, the dean announced, for revolutionary contributions to quantum predictive modeling and for your commitment to supporting women in STEM fields. We are honored to have you return to MIT as one of our most distinguished alumni. The audience stood and applauded. Claire walked across the stage, 6-month-old Sophia in a carrier on her chest, and accepted the doctorate she'd abandoned 7 years ago to build Marcus's dream. Now she was building her own. "Thank you," Claire said into the microphone. "When I left MIT 7 years ago, I thought I was choosing love over ambition. I thought I had to give up my dreams to support someone else's. I was wrong." She looked down at Sophia, who was watching her with witty, curious eyes. "You don't have to choose between brilliance and love," Claire continued. "You don't have to shrink yourself to make someone else feel bigger. And you don't have to have anyone tell you that you're just support, just assistance, just a coder. You're the architect. You're the innovator. You're the one who builds the future." Another standing ovation. Later at the reception, Dr. Sarah Thompson found Claire. "You remember when you dropped out?" Dr. Thompson asked. "I tried to convince you to stay. You told me Marcus needed you." "I remember," Claire said. "I'm sorry I didn't listen." "Don't be sorry. Be proud. You left to build something. It got stolen. You rebuilt it better. And now you're helping thousands of women do the same. That's not failure, Claire. That's resurrection." The Morgan Whitmore Quantum Systems Partnership officially launched 1 year after Claire joined Whitmore Technologies. They weren't just a company, they were a movement. 200 employees, 40% women, all working on technology that would reshape industries. Genesis was now used in 47 countries. Supply chain optimization, pandemic prediction, climate modeling, financial forecasting. The technology Claire built was saving lives and changing futures. The Claire Morgan Fellowship had funded 3,000 women in its first 2 years. 3,000 brilliant engineers who'd been told they weren't good enough, weren't visionary enough, weren't enough. Every single one was proving those assumptions wrong. Marcus was released from prison after serving 4 years of his sentence. He'd aged, learned humility, stopped pretending to be something he wasn't. He got a job as a junior analyst at a small consulting firm. No more empire, no more glory, just honest work. He sent a letter asking if he could meet Sophia. She was 4 years old now. Claire thought about it for a long time. Talked to her therapist, to Jordan, to Victoria, who'd become an unlikely friend over the years. "What do you want?" Jordan asked. "I want Sophia to have the chance to know her father," Claire said. "Even if he's flawed, even if he hurt me, she deserves the opportunity to make her own judgment when she's old enough." So Claire arranged supervised visits, once a month, in a park with a social worker present. Marcus would play with Sophia on the swings, read her books, listen to her talk about preschool and her favorite dinosaurs. He never asked about the company, never tried to claim credit for anything, never asked Claire for forgiveness again. One day, Sophia asked, "Why doesn't Daddy live with us?" Claire knelt down to her daughter's eye level. "Because Daddy made some mistakes a long time ago. He hurt Mommy, and he had to learn to be better before he could be part of your life. Is he better now?" "He's trying to be," Claire said honestly, "and that's what matters." "Do you hate him?" Claire thought carefully about her answer. "No, baby. I don't hate him. I forgive him, because holding on to anger hurts me more than it hurts him. And I want to be happy. I want you to be happy. Hate doesn't make people happy." Sophia considered this with the seriousness only 4-year-olds can manage. "Okay, can I go play now?" "Yes, sweetheart." Claire watched her daughter run across the playground, fearless and free, and felt something settle in her chest. Peace. Real peace. 5 years after the Whitmore Summit confrontation, Claire gave a TED Talk that was viewed 40 million times. "People ask me if I got revenge," Claire said on stage. "If destroying Marcus Thorne made me whole. The truth, Marcus destroyed himself. I just stopped covering for his lies." She paused, making eye contact with the audience. "What made me whole wasn't watching him fall. It was watching myself rise. I didn't win because I was smarter or better. I won because I refused to disappear. Because I built something so undeniable that the world had to acknowledge me." Another pause. Sophia was backstage with Jordan, watching her mother with pride. "I was told I was nothing," Claire continued, "that I lacked vision, that I was just a coder, just support, just less. And for a long time I believed it." That's the real theft, by the way. Not stealing code or money or credit. It's stealing someone's belief in their own worth, making them think they're nothing so you can take everything. Her voice grew stronger, more certain. But here's what I learned. From nothing, you can build everything. From the absolute bottom, with no resources, no support, no reason to hope, you can create something brilliant. And when you do, when you refuse to stay invisible, when you tell your truth even when it costs everything, you don't just change your own life, you change the world. Claire smiled at the camera, at the millions watching. My name is Claire Morgan. I built Chimera. I built Genesis. I built a company, a fellowship, a future, and I built it all from nothing. Because I was never nothing. I was just convinced I was. And once I stopped believing that lie, nothing could stop me. Standing ovation. Every person in that auditorium on their feet. 7 years after that first terrible night when Claire discovered she was pregnant and broke in a cramped Oakland apartment, she stood in the Morgan Whitmore Quantum Systems headquarters looking at the wall of photos. 3,000 women, the first Claire Morgan Fellows. Every single one had graduated, published research, launched companies, changed industries. Their photos covered an entire wall, a monument to what happens when talented people are given a chance to finish what they started. Sophia, now 7 years old, stood next to her mother studying the photos. "Mommy, did you really help all these people?" "No, baby," Claire said. "I gave them resources. They helped themselves. They did the work. They were brilliant all along. They just needed someone to believe in them. Like how you were always brilliant, but Daddy didn't believe in you?" Claire smiled at her daughter's simple wisdom. "Exactly like that." "I'm glad you didn't give up," Sophia said seriously, "even when it was hard." "Me too, sweetheart." That evening, Claire had dinner with Jordan and Victoria. Their monthly tradition started 5 years ago and never missed. "Did you see the news?" Jordan asked, pulling up her phone. "Marcus got engaged, to his therapist, apparently. They've been dating for a year." Claire felt nothing but mild interest. "Good for him. Everyone deserves a second chance at happiness." "Very evolved of you," Victoria said with a grin. "I mean it," Claire said. "I spent too many years hating him. It was exhausting. Now I just hope he's genuinely better, for Sophia's sake, if nothing else." "How are the visits going?" Jordan asked. "Good, actually. He's patient with her. Doesn't try to buy her affection with expensive gifts. Just shows up, spends time, listens. It's probably the most authentic I've ever seen him." Victoria raised her glass. "To authenticity, to second chance, and to brilliant women who refuse to disappear." They clinked glasses. Celebrated friendship forged in fire. Later that week, Claire had a meeting with MIT about expanding the fellowship program. "We want to create the Claire Morgan Endowed Chair," Dr. Thompson explained. "Full professorship with resources to mentor female PhD candidates in STEM. You'd be able to teach, research, mentor, whatever you want. We're offering $3 million over 5 years, with options to extend." "That's incredibly generous," Claire said. "But I'm not sure I have time for teaching right now. The lab is—" "We'd work around your schedule," Dr. Thompson interrupted. "Virtual lectures, flexible hours. Claire, you've changed thousands of lives with the fellowship. Imagine what you could do with direct access to students at the institution where this all started." Claire thought about the 27-year-old version of herself, brilliant and naive, dropping out for a man who saw her as a resource to extract. "Let me think about it," Claire said. That night, she put Sophia to bed with their usual routine. Stories, songs, questions about everything. "Mommy, when I grow up, can I be a scientist like you?" "You can be anything you want, baby." "What if I want to be a scientist and a princess?" Claire laughed. "Then you'll be the smartest princess in the kingdom. And if someone says girls can't be scientists, then you'll prove them wrong, just like Mommy did." Sophia considered this. "Were you scared when you proved the mean people wrong?" Claire thought about that night 7 years ago, sitting on her bathroom floor, broke and pregnant and terrified, choosing between survival and truth. "Yes, sweetheart, I was very scared." "But you did it anyway?" "Yes." "That's very brave, Mommy." "Thank you, baby. Now go to sleep." Claire stood in Sophia's doorway watching her daughter drift off. This beautiful girl who'd been born from the worst moment of Claire's life and become the best thing in it. Her phone buzzed. Email from James Whittemore. Claire, I'm stepping down as CEO next year. I'm 68, tired and ready to fish. I'd like you to take over as CEO of Whitmore Technologies. You've earned it. You've built something remarkable. Now lead it. JW. Claire stared at the email for a long time. CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, her name on the letterhead, her vision driving the future. Everything Marcus had taken from her, rebuilt better in her own image. She thought about accepting, about the power, the platform, the ability to change entire industries. Then she thought about Sophia, about missing bedtimes and school plays and lazy Sunday mornings because she was building an empire. Claire hit reply. James, I'm honored, truly, but I'm going to decline. I've spent the last 7 years proving I could build an empire. Now I want to prove I can build a life. I'm going to take the MIT position. Teach, mentor, spend time with my daughter. Let someone else run the company. I'll stay on the board, consult on major technical decisions. But I'm done trying to prove my worth through accomplishments. I'm enough exactly as I am. Thank you for everything. Claire. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response came 30 seconds later. That's the wisest thing I've heard in 40 years of business. Enjoy your life, Claire. You've earned that too. JW? 2 weeks later, Claire gave her final presentation as CTO of Whitmore Technologies. It was at the same summit where she'd exposed Marcus 7 years earlier. The auditorium was packed. 3,000 attendees, 200,000 watching online. Claire walked on stage, confident, calm, no longer fighting to be seen. My name is Dr. Claire Morgan, she began. Many of you know my story, how I built Chimera, how it was stolen, how I rebuilt something better, how I exposed fraud and changed my industry. She paused, smiling. But that's not the story I want to tell today. Today, I want to talk about what comes after resurrection. After you fought the battle, won the war, proved everyone wrong. What comes next? Claire clicked to the first slide, a photo of Sophia on her first day of school. This comes next. Life. Real life. Not proving your worth or fighting for recognition or building empires. Just being present for the people you love. Just existing without having to justify your existence. Another slide. The 3,000 fellowship recipients. I've spent 7 years helping brilliant women finish what they started, proving that stolen credit doesn't erase original genius, that no amount of money can buy true innovation, that truth matters, even when lies are profitable. She looked directly at the camera. I won. I beat the system. I built something so undeniable that the world had to acknowledge me. But here's what I learned. Winning isn't enough. Recognition isn't enough. Even justice isn't enough. What's enough is knowing your own worth, regardless of whether anyone else sees it. Another pause. Marcus Thorne called me nothing, and I spent years proving I was something. But I don't need to prove that anymore. I know what I built. I know what I'm capable of. And I don't need the world's validation to believe it. Final slide, Claire's MIT honorary doctorate hanging on her office wall. I'm stepping down as CTO to become a professor at MIT. I'm going to teach, mentor, and spend my evenings having dinner with my daughter instead of answering investor emails. I'm going to stop measuring my worth by my productivity and start measuring it by my peace. She smiled at the audience. To everyone watching who's fighting their own Marcus Thorne, who's rebuilding from nothing, who's trying to prove they matter. You already matter. You don't need their acknowledgement. You don't need their validation. You don't need to burn yourself out building empire after empire to prove your genius. Claire's voice was strong now. Certain. You just need to know your own worth. And once you know it, really know it deep in your bones, nothing anyone says or does can take it away. That's the real victory. Not revenge, not recognition, just peace. She stepped back from the microphone. My name is Dr. Claire Morgan. I built the future, and now I'm going to enjoy it. Thank you. The standing ovation lasted 5 full minutes. Later that evening, Claire picked up Sophia from school. They got ice cream, went to the park, played on the swings. "Mommy, did you do your important speech today?" Sophia asked, chocolate ice cream smeared across her face. "Yes, baby, I did." "Was it good?" "I think so." "Good. Can we go see the ducks now?" They fed the ducks, watched the sunset, went home and made dinner together, Sophia helping in the way 7-year-olds do, creating more mess than assistance. After Sophia was asleep, Claire sat on her balcony with a cup of tea looking out over Oakland, where this had all started 7 years ago. Her phone rang, Marcus's number. "Hello?" Claire answered. "I saw your speech," Marcus said, "about finding peace, about being enough without having to prove it. And? And I'm happy for you, really happy. You deserve that peace. Thank you, Marcus." "Claire, I know I've said this before, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry for all of it, for stealing your work, for erasing you, for trying to convince you that you were nothing. You were always something. You were always brilliant. I was just too threatened by it to admit it." Claire was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised even herself. "I forgive you, Marcus, completely. No anger left, no resentment, just forgiveness. I don't deserve it. Probably not, but I deserve to let go of the weight. So I'm forgiving you anyway." After they hung up, Claire sat in the dark feeling lighter than she had in 7 years. The next day, she started her position at MIT. Her first lecture had 200 students, mostly women, all eager to learn from the woman who'd changed the industry. "My name is Dr. Claire Morgan," she said to start the class. "I'm going to teach you quantum predictive modeling, but more importantly, I'm going to teach you how to protect your work, claim your credit, and never let anyone convince you that you're just support. You're the architects. Act like it." The students leaned forward, ready to learn, and Claire taught them everything she'd learned the hard way. 5 years later, Sophia was 12, smart, confident, passionate about robotics. She'd built her first functional robot at age 10, won her first science fair at 11, was already planning her MIT application despite being years away from college. "Mommy," Sophia asked one evening, "do you ever wish you'd stayed CEO, been more famous?" Claire thought about it honestly. "No, baby. I'm exactly where I want to be. Teaching, creating, spending time with you. Fame is overrated. Peace is everything. Even though you could have been really rich and powerful, I'm already rich in the ways that matter. I have you. I have meaningful work. I have friends who love me. I have my name on my research. What else do I need?" Sophia hugged her mother. "I want to be like you when I grow up." "You can be better than me," Claire said. "That's the whole point." 10 years after that first terrible night, Claire attended the wedding of the 1,000th Claire Morgan Fellow to complete her PhD and launch her own company. "You changed my life," the bride told Claire. "I was working as a waitress, convinced I'd never finish my degree. Your fellowship gave me a second chance." "You changed your own life," Claire corrected. "I just removed the obstacles. You did the work." "Still, thank you." At the reception, Victoria found Claire by the dessert table. "Can you believe it's been 10 years?" Victoria asked. "Feels like another lifetime," Claire said. "In a way, it was. We're different people now." "Better people," Claire agreed. Jordan joined them, champagne in hand. The three women who took down Marcus Thorne. "We should write a book." "Pass," Claire said with a laugh. "I'm done telling that story. I want to tell new ones now." "Fair enough." Jordan raised her glass. "To new stories. Better stories." They toasted, celebrated how far they'd come. That night, Claire tucked Sophia into bed. Her daughter was reading a biography of Marie Curie. "Mommy, did Marie Curie ever want to give up?" "Probably," Claire said. "She faced huge obstacles. Sexism, poverty, people stealing her credit. But she kept going. Like you did. Like lots of women do. We're resilient like that. When I'm famous, I'm going to make sure everyone knows women built all the important things." Claire smiled. "I believe you will, sweetheart. Now go to sleep." In the doorway, Claire paused and looked back at her daughter. This beautiful, brilliant girl who would grow up in a world slightly better than the one Claire had entered. A world where women's names stayed on their work. Where theft was harder to hide. Where nothing could become everything because enough people refused to stay invisible. Claire thought about that terrified woman 7 years ago, sitting on a bathroom floor, broke and pregnant and broken. She wished she could tell that woman, you're going to make it. Not just survive, thrive. You're going to build something beautiful. You're going to raise an incredible daughter. You're going to change your industry and help thousands of women. You're going to find peace. You're going to resurrect yourself from nothing and become everything. And most importantly, you were never nothing. You just couldn't see your own light yet. Claire turned off the light and went to her own room. On her desk sat 3 photos. Sophia's first day of school, the Morgan Innovation Lab team, and a photo from the Whitmore Summit 7 years ago, Claire on stage telling her truth to the world. She looked at that photo for a long time, remembered the terror, the courage, the moment everything changed. Then she put the photo face down in a drawer. She didn't need to look at it anymore. She knew who she was, Dr. Claire Morgan, architect, mother, teacher, innovator, resurrector. She was enough. She'd always been enough. And finally, after all these years, she believed it. 20 years after that first terrible night, Claire gave her final lecture at MIT before retiring. The auditorium was packed with students, colleagues, former fellows. Sophia sat in the front row, now 32, and a robotics professor at Stanford with her own lab and her own brilliant students. My name is Dr. Claire Morgan, Claire began. 20 years ago, I stood on a stage and told a story about theft, resurrection, and justice. Today, I want to tell you what happened after the story ended. She smiled at her audience. I taught, I researched, I re-raised my daughter, I mentored 10,000 women through the fellowship program. I published papers, won awards, changed my field. I lived a full, rich, meaningful life. A pause. But here's what I learned. The resurrection wasn't the dramatic moment on stage. The resurrection was every morning I woke up and chose to build instead of destroy, to create instead of hate, to move forward instead of looking back. She looked at Sophia. The resurrection was teaching my daughter that her worth isn't determined by what she produces, but by who she is. That she doesn't have to prove anything to anyone. That she's enough exactly as she is. Another pause. Marcus Thorne died 3 years ago. Heart attack. I went to the funeral. Not because I owed him anything, but because the man who hurt me became someone different. Someone humble. Someone who spent his last years teaching ethics in business, using his own failure as a cautionary tale. Claire's voice was gentle now. At the funeral, his second wife thanked me. She said Marcus told her that losing everything was the best thing that ever happened to him, that it forced him to become real, to be honest, to build something smaller but more authentic. She looked at the camera, recording her final lecture. I'm telling you this because sometimes we think resurrection is about defeating our enemies, but real resurrection is about transcending the battle entirely. It's about building a life so full of meaning that revenge becomes irrelevant. Claire stepped back from the podium. My name is Dr. Claire Morgan. 20 years ago, I was nothing. Today, I'm everything. But I learned that nothing and everything are just stories we tell ourselves. The truth is simpler. I'm human, flawed, brilliant in some ways, ordinary in others. And that's enough. It was always enough. She smiled. Thank you for letting me teach you. Now go build something beautiful. And when someone tries to steal it, don't spend 20 years proving they were wrong. Just build something else. Build so many beautiful things they can't steal them all. Live so fully that their opinion becomes irrelevant. Her final words, be enough, you already are. The standing ovation lasted 10 minutes. After the lecture, Sophia hugged her mother. That was beautiful, Mom. Thank you, baby. Dad would have been proud, your actual dad, James Whitmore, not Marcus. Claire laughed. James Whitmore had passed 5 years ago, leaving his entire estate to the fellowship program and naming Claire as his intellectual successor. James taught me that the best legacy isn't what you build, it's who you help become builders. They walked out of MIT together, mother and daughter, both professors, both innovators, both proof that nothing can become everything. On the way to the car, Claire passed a young woman sitting on a bench, crying over her laptop. Claire paused. You okay? The young woman looked up. My advisor just stole my research, published it under his name. I have no proof it was mine. I'm nobody. He's tenured faculty. I've lost everything. Claire sat down beside her. What's your name? Emma. Emma, my name is Claire Morgan. 20 years ago, I was exactly where you are. Stolen work, no power, no options. I'm going to tell you what I learned. She took Emma's hand. You're not nobody. You're a brilliant researcher whose work was good enough to steal. That means you can build it again. Better with your name on it this time. Emma stared at her. You're the Claire Morgan? The one who… Yes, and I'm going to help you. The fellowship program has resources for exactly this situation. Legal support, financial assistance, whatever you need to rebuild and publish under your own name. Tears streamed down Emma's face. Why would you help me? Claire smiled. Because someone helped me once. Someone gave me a stage when I had nothing. Now I'm giving you one. She stood up. My office is in Building 7. Come see me Monday morning. We'll fix this. As Claire walked away, she heard Emma call out, Dr. Morgan, thank you. Thank you for not disappearing. Claire turned back. I almost did, but then I realized the world needs us visible, so we stay visible. For the next Emma and the next Claire, we stay visible so they know it's possible. She continued to her car where Sophia was waiting. You know you're retired, right? Sophia said with a grin. You don't have to save everyone anymore. I'm not saving anyone, Claire said. I'm just showing them they can save themselves. They drove home through Cambridge, past MIT, past all the places where Claire's story had unfolded. And somewhere a young woman named Emma opened her laptop and started rebuilding her research, started building her resurrection, started becoming everything from nothing, just like Claire Morgan had taught her.